welcome in to the rant with me, Pugs Moran, at a special secret time, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Typically do this show noon-ish, we'll say. Today, 1 o'clock. Happy Friday to you. What do we do here? We talk about stuff. We talk about the world. We talk about whatever. Honestly, I'm tired of fakely, pretending like this is about everything. This show is just about what I find interesting in the world and how that relates to my treasured chat room. My chat room, I love you guys. You've been here every day for 5 years as we chop it up, as they say. I like to reward the first couple of folks in the chat room. We do it Formula One racing style. We do it in the, what do we say? The podium. That's it, the podium. Why did I go blank? First place, second place, and third place. Who are the winners? Who are today's podium here in the chat room? Let me see. Let me go all the way up to the top. Again, I don't know what version of the chat room you're using. This is my version. And I hope it's the same as yours. In first place today, congratulations. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. It's Barney. Barney! Did you use your Bible verses and bother God with prayers so that you can be on the podium today? No. Barney's first in. Thank you, buddy. Barney. Very good. Second in today, I got Peter. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. That guy's a thing. Peter and Kim, I don't know if we give them both credit. Like, are they, you know what? No, I was going to say, I know Peter. Gonna say maybe they're Siamese twins, maybe because we don't like to value Peter more than we do Kim. So maybe I just need to think of them as Siamese twins, which is weird because I've met Peter, but don't know that I've met Kim. I don't know. Anyway, second place on the podium to Barney's first place is Peter of Peter and Kim. Torondo's third, of course. What'd you think? What did you think? Toronto wasn't going to be on the podium? All right, Ty, you are representing strongly as always. Who else are we saying hi to this Friday? We've got, Maddie's here. We got my friend April. April is here as well. She is, of course, she's the auntie of the chat room. Nobody disrespect April. Look, she's built up the kind of equity. Sometimes people get sideways with each other in the chat room. And concerning the chat room, when people reach out to me and they're like, blah, 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 I always say, yeah, you guys fucking handle it, right? I mean, I banned a person, but not because I was trying to silence them. I banned a person because that person was clearly going through something, and it was just in their own best interest that so that's the only time. But I don't know, why are we talking about banning? What was it that anyway? Oh yeah, Auntie April, that's what it is. Auntie April's in the chat room. If she ever told me, if she's like, hey, this person, then yeah, April I would listen to, because she's the den mother of the chat room. She's Auntie April. She's in charge. She holds more sway than any of you, because I know April face to face, hanging out with April, and I know that she's reasoned and measured. So any problems in the chat room, just consider her the governor of all disputes. There you go. I don't have the power to ban anyone, but April does. Look at that. Look at what we just gave to April. All right, good for you, April. Al's here. Happy Friday, Al. Happy Friday. Maddie's here, of course. Maddie's going to be on later. She's got two really cool topics. And so the stuff that Maddie and I are now doing is stuff that that I want to do anyway, and she just happens to present because she finds all this stuff. But it's stuff that once she presents it to me, I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about that. Let's get into that. And these are things like I specifically want to talk about with somebody else. So we've got a good one today. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this new thing that's going around that I didn't know about. But, after she put it on my radar, I checked it out. And yeah, it's happening. This catfishing celebrity edition. We all know what catfishing is, right? All right. So how do we loop some celebrities into this weirdly mid 2000s phenomena that didn't really think was a thing anymore? Anyway, we'll talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about this really interesting story out of California, college athletics, concerning a male volleyball player, a flamboyant male volleyball player, who received some criticism from a commentator of one of the games. And that's turned into a whole thing. So Maddie's going to join us, and we're going to talk about that. We're tired of talking about Pope Leo and Donald Trump. We're going to talk about volleyball legend Charlie Brandt versus UC Irvine's Jordan Lucas. And I'll give you some thoughts on volleyball, men's volleyball. Would you believe I've got thoughts on men's volleyball? I do. Let me tell you, I'll give you a little inkling as to what my thoughts are on men's volleyball. So when I was a teenager, we would go to the beaches and we'd play a lot of beach volleyball, right? That was something that we played. And it turns out that, I don't know, I had some natural abilities at beach volleyball that maybe I didn't have at some other sports, but I personally felt pretty more confident in, beach volleyball. At that time in the 1980s, there was no such thing as men's volleyball in high school, certainly not in my high school. We had girls volleyball. They didn't have men's volleyball, but I remember thinking, oh my God, that would be so cool if they had men's volleyball. I might actually go out for the men's volleyball team. Like, I understand, like, there are certain girls' sports when I was in high school that only existed for girls, but for the most part, they had a male counterpart, right? Like, there was girls' softball that was really big in my high school, but there was it was baseball. There was men's baseball, so they had girls' softball. And there was boys soccer and there was girls soccer, but then girls had other things. Like, girls had volleyball. How come they got volleyball? Okay, I'll take the volleyball argument as girls get volleyball because boys have football and there's not really a 1-for-1 for that. So let's give them volleyball. Okay, understandable. Explain badminton. How come girls get badminton? We got men and women's gymnastics in high school. Where's men's badminton? Anyway, I wanted men's badminton in high school, and I wanted men's volleyball, and I felt like I got gypped in high school. And then like 10 years later, every high school in America now suddenly has men's volleyball because the United States won a gold medal in like 92. And some guy named Karch Karai is now famous. I like volleyball, is my point. Men's volleyball. And look, you know what I mean? When I say men's volleyball, I'm talking 92 Olympic gold medal. I'm talking about them dudes. I ain't talking about the appeal of men's volleyball that is maybe best represented in that scene from Top Gun. I'm not talking about that. First of all, how performative of those guys in Top Gun. Nobody plays. Or can we break down that Top Gun volleyball scene that is just iconic in the gay community now? Because it is very gay. Like, when you look at it at the time of the Top Gun volleyball scene, like, if I saw Top Gun when I was 16, I did not see that scene in a movie theater and go, that's explicitly gay. Nah, it just went over my head. It was just an 80s music montage with, like, Tom Cruise and a bunch of buff dudes playing. That's all. It's over my head, right? I didn't get the gayisms. But there are. Because, years later, it starts to get pointed out, and you're like, oh my God, that is so gay. All right, I got to write that down on shit that I didn't see. All right, Judas Priest, we got that. We got Freddie Mercury and Queen. I mean, against my better judgment, I really didn't see that. And now we're going to add things that I didn't know were gay, the volleyball scene from Top Gun. Okay. Those are, I've got a big list, but we don't have time to go through it. But the 92, like, Olympic dudes volleyball team, man, those guys were cool. Those guys were all, like, real good looking. They were all like 6'7", and like ripped, and they all had like blonde hair, and they all had, like, for the whole time, they all had like smoke show girlfriends. And like, whenever they would be playing, they'd play a tournament, the hot girlfriends were like a big part of the presentation. You'd be like, oh, Karch's girlfriend didn't like that. And you just see this like smoke show chick, and I'm like, man, volleyball players are getting Formula One driver level chicks. This is crazy. It was very hetero for like a brief period of time. Anyway, we're going to get into it, and I'm not going to look at me. I just told you my whole thought on volleyball. Anyway, I love volleyball. I love men's volleyball. And we're going to talk to Maddie about, situations brewing in collegiate men's volleyball and a whole bunch of other stuff, man. I got to be honest, there is no really big story today that we're going to dig into. It's a bunch of little stuff. I'd say the big stories are probably going to be what we get into with Maddie. So, excuse me. All right, let me keep saying hi to the chat room. Where did I leave off? I think I left off with my boy Al. Look at me. I got to go way down. Hokey schmokels. Let's oh my God, we've got Leslie C, we've got Adam. We got this old son of a bitch. Where the hell have you been? Where the hell has Byron? Jesus, man, every party needs a troublemaker. Where the hell has Byron been? Byron, I openly pondered about my private concerns that, I don't know, would you shoot your mouth off and a bunch of black dudes beat you up? He's in a hospital somewhere. I'm like, dude, do we need to do something for Byron? Welcome back, buddy. It's good to see you. Look at that. It's Byron. All right. Even the Byron haters in the chat room. You got to admit, you missed him a little bit. At least I did. I missed him a little. All right. Welcome home, Byron. Let's see. We've got I guess that was the other thing. I was like, did Byron get banned? Because I didn't ban him. I talked earlier about it. I'm not even sure how to ban, but if banning became something we needed to do, I would absolutely put April in charge and give her Ed's phone number. Like, you just call Ed when you want to ban somebody. Or he'll tell you once how to do it because it's real easy and you'll remember it. Unlike me. Here's Adam. Adam, we're talking a little bit about the men's volleyball. He says, my nephew plays college volleyball for Texas A&M. He's a freshman. Is he straight? That would be my question. Because I'm, has men's volleyball. Look, how do I phrase this? There are a number of sports in America that have not yet embraced openly gay teammates. Not a whole bunch of people in college football walking around, I'm a gay tight end. Oh, geez, that was a bad example. It was just the first one that came to my head. I'm not a gay edge rusher, or is that that's sexual too, edge. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? So, like, in baseball, there's no gay, however, like in the WNBA, I think it's fairly common for women to be married to other women and all that. That's very accepted. But as I'm saying, my recollection, the last time I checked in with college men's volleyball, it was very male. It was very testosterone. It was very Karch Karai, slaying actresses. And is he dating Winona Ryder in 19? Stuff like that. So I don't know. Like, is college volleyball a sport where there are plenty of top level players who are openly gay? I don't know. I'm asking this question honestly and curiously, because in the case of Jordan Lucas, who we're going to talk about, he is flamboyant. And we'll get into what the problem is, because I don't have a problem with the flamboyance, although I think I've gone on record as saying it's a bit much. Flamboyant guys. Hello, wow. There is nothing in my heart, soul, or any ounce of me that has a problem with anybody who's gay. Haven't felt that way in a good 30 years since, I grew up and became a mature person who understood about life and individual choice and how sometimes things happen and love is love. I changed from being a dumb guy who was like, look at that fag. We all changed. I mean, the whole world changed. But I am made uncomfortable by the super flamboyant, Jack from Will and Grace. I think Sean Hayes is hysterical, and I like Sean Hayes. But when he plays that character type, the over-the-top flamboyant, which he does not present in real life as, I mean, you can tell that he's a gay man. He's not a guy that you're going to go, hey, by any chance you play fantasy football? Like, you're not going to get that impression from him. But he's not flamboyant the way he was portrayed in that show. And I think it's a very performative way that gay men were presented as tolerable in the 1970s and in the 1980s. The flamboyance of being like that. And I'm talking about people like Rip Taylor, people like famously Paul Lynde and Charles Nelson Riley. It was almost like their shield from he's not gay, he's just wild. Do you understand? So that's kind of what that represents in my mind. And when I still see it today being enacted, I think that it's a trope that strikes me as negative from a bygone era that we have passed. Now, I begrudge nobody the way they act, right? But I am allowed to not be drawn to a certain character type. And that is absolutely, the flamboyant guy is absolutely a character type that I'm not drawn to. Do you want to know another character type that I'm not drawn to? Just so you don't think that, oh, Pugs is blah, blah, blah. I'm also not drawn to the character type that, maybe goes on Joe Rogan as a guest. Right? I don't like that overly macho, I'm trying too hard to make sure nobody's up a pussy because I'm scared and I don't want anybody to beat me up. I don't like that character type either. There's a lot of character types in humanity that I don't like, and none of it is based on a bias, a bigotry, or some sort of premeditated hatred of a group. It's not. We all have these things. So anyway, when we talk about this situation, I'm going to talk about how much he irritates me. And I don't want there to be anybody who just doesn't like gays. All right. Thank you. But seriously, Adam, your nephew plays college volleyball. Is he gay? That's the question I'm looking for the answer to. And hopefully I ranted long enough that he'll give me an answer to that. Let's see here. Peter agrees. Yeah. When I was running through my list of things that I never thought were gay that snuck up on me, Rob Halford. Peter agrees. Rob Halford of Judas Priest was an eye opener, and really shouldn't have been. Now that you look back, there are a lot of flags. Is what I'm saying. There's a lot of indicators that Rob Halford wasn't maybe Same with Eddie Mercury. I mean, but you could the greatness and the bigness and the specialness of Queen at the time of their apex. Freddie Mercury at Live Aid. You know what I mean? At the time when Queen was Queen, we weren't asking those questions. We were just looking past it. Freddie Mercury was rock and roll theatrical, and that's it. And we ain't talking any more about it. Yeah, all right. Thank you there. Thank you. Adam. Adam says, great 30 Rock joke. You said I was gayer than the beach volleyball scene from Top Gun. Yeah. Didn't see that one. I didn't clock that one. And I'm I have grown into what I believe to be in my mature state, a terrific judge of character. I can clock things now. I get subliminal messaging. Let's see here. Okay, Byron's got me an answer. That's good. He says that he's always here. He just can't always chat. Okay, there you go. What are you in some kind of house arrest? Barney says, I also cheated out of volleyball. I wasn't great at basketball, but I had a 36 vertical and little regard for my own well-being. Yeah, man. Volleyball's very athletic. I mean, when we saw the dudes who were, winning gold medals for us back in the 90s, we were like, those dudes are really scary. Like, those dudes walk into a bar, forget that you're like, oh, they play volleyball. No, they're just jacked 6'5" guys. Go ahead, fuck with them. So what I'm trying to say is volleyball, men's volleyball to me was always very masculine. Always very manudulant. No, it was always very masculine, and it was also very hetero because there was a big, who they dating, and then they would do. Oh my God! Then like the men's gold medal team, like with the Dusty somebodies, and I don't remember all their names. Peter Tork. No, he was a monkey, but probably also a guy named something like that. Karch Karai is the name that I always remember because that's a good name. That's a good branding name. But after they became really famous for like the gold medal team, and after they won like a bunch of national championships at UCLA, because apparently they were all like on the same college team or something. I don't know. Let me have my memories. I don't need Adam Rayner right now doing AI. Give me the bio of Kartra. Shut up. Let me just tell my story. Anyway, after they won the gold medal and became famous for that, the TV producers were like, we need to get these guys. Chicks dig them. Guys think they're cool. So they created, you might remember for a time in the 90s, the beach volleyball phenomena, where it was all the same people that were legit because they won gold medals, but they were wearing like skimpy bathing suits and stuff. And all their girlfriends were still there, except now they're in bikinis. It was very awesome. I went to two, I don't know, WVA or whatever. There was a pro tour. I went to two of them here in Chicago when I was on the radio. We covered them. We promoted them. Who was the chick? Oh, remember? And then the chicks joined, and it turned out that all the chick volleyball players were like Gabrielle Reese, and were like, yes, please. No, there was nothing. There was nothing about either. Volleyball was cool, man. I come from the 90s. Volleyball was cool. And maybe it still is. I'm just wondering if the landscape has changed. And is volleyball at the NCAA level, because I don't know about its existence past that, other than at the Olympic level. But is volleyball one of the sports where people are comfortable being out of the closet? Because as we've established, that's still not the case, especially at the NCAA level with baseball and football and hockey. And I don't even know about soccer, but probably not. Whereas I said that it is with girl sports, I think there are a lot of open lesbian collegiate softball players and basketball players. So I thought my questions and their questions, right? We can't fix anything if people who are wondering can't get answers to their questions. And questions are not judgments of entire lifestyles. They're just questions. So let's all just dial it back and let's talk about those stuff. All right. Thank you, Barney. Who else? We're running through shit. I believe this is an answer to the question that I posed Adam about his nephew or cousin or whatever. I don't know. I got high last night, so I'm a little bit. I asked he's like, my cousin, nephew, whatever, he plays volleyball at the collegiate level. And I said, is he gay? And so he says, yes, his girlfriend lives in Canada. I mean, Dallas. She goes, I don't even know if this is a joke or not. All right, but I'll give him the respect because Adam is funny. Is he gay? Yes. His girlfriend lives in Canada. I get it. He's still closeted. I mean, Dallas. She goes to UTD. Don't have a H-gay nephew that I know of. I don't know what H-gay is. Adam's too forward. He knows too much of the woke lingo, or he's got big fat thumbs like me. And he types badly. I don't know. H-gay? Is that a thing now? Did we add an H to the letters? I'm still an ally. Look, I promise I'm still an ally. You just I don't know what H is. Hetero? I don't think we need to add an H to the LGBTQ. I think the heteros got their own thing. I think the whole reason you guys got an organization with letters is because of the heteros. What does the H mean? Byron. There's the Byron we missed. There he is. Brittany Griner's a man. Okay. All right, that's the Byron we missed. Let's see here. Yeah, all right. Here's Adam's got a question, and we ain't paying this. This is a dork question. This is not good. Since y'all helped with my Maddie hoodie question, remember he had the question about whether or not Maddie, his daughter, should be able to go to school wearing a hoodie that promotes a questionable band, femtard or something. I don't know. It was something, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a word. And I think I advised to let her wear it. And if she gets in trouble, then don't wear it. Or come back and we'll have to deal with that situation, but let her wear it. Everybody's afraid. I don't want to get in trouble. And then suddenly you're screaming at your daughter in the living room of your house for no fucking reason other than you're afraid of what might happen. Let her wear the fucking... Let her experience life. My God. Let's see here. Peter, I was talking about the flamboyant. Yeah, Nathan Lane was hysterical in the birdcage. Have you ever seen Nathan Lane in real life? Again, he's not somebody that you're going to ask, hey, do you know who's starting for the White Sox tonight? You're not going to ask him that question. But Nathan Lane does not carry himself the way he did in the performative role in the birdcage, which was very funny. It was very funny, but that character was written as a stereotype from those 70s, kind of. This is what straight men think we all are. And that ain't a thing. That ain't a thing. That's a holdover, stereotypical trope from a time when gay men were not allowed to actually be themselves. So what I think actually happened there with the flamboyant thing, although we'll get to this second part. So what I think happened with the flamboyant thing is that I think there were a lot of people who, when they came out, they were proud to come out. And they were like, you know what, fuck this. It is about time that I'm allowed to live the way I want to be. And I'm going to be loud about it. And I think it was maybe easy for them to draw upon those examples of Paul Lynde and Rip Torn and the way Hollywood specifically, and as like the primary influence on culture, how Hollywood presented men that we knew were gay, but we weren't going to ask too many questions about, right? So I do think that as people started coming out, I think there are a lot of very proud and it's about time types who went out, and in order to show the world that they were in fact proud, they used the cues provided by Hollywood for 30 years. They were on the gay pride float. And I think a lot of that is performative. I really do. That's all. That's my take. So when I see it, I go, that's, you know what that is? That's a blackface show. That's what they call, what do they call that? That's a minstrel show. That is a gay minstrel show. When I see people performing that way, I don't know. It's just how I feel about it. Again, do it. I don't care. I'm allowed to have my feels. And also, because I'm respectful, I should probably keep my fucking mouth shut. But that's not what we do. We do here a conversation. So I'm sharing. Anyway, let's see. We've decided that Adam's nephew is gay because I'm confused and, I'm behind in the chat room. And these are just the problems. Hey, Adam walked into it. Adam says, I don't have a gay nephew, just 2 gay nieces. Of 14, or again, is OF a new kind of sexual designation? They're on OnlyFans at 14? Aunt April, call the authorities. Aunt April, paging Aunt April. Adam's got 2 nephews. He's got 2 gay nephews on OnlyFans, and they're only 14. That's right. That's the kind of information you get on this show. Let's see here. Byron. Rip Torn was gay? I don't know. Seemed like it, right? I don't know. We could probably dive into his Wikipedia page and just scroll down to where it says personal life, and it'll answer that right there. But I'm pretty comfortable with how I feel about Rip Torn and what he was. Pretty sure. Let's see. Adam says there was an episode of Will and Grace where they deal with this subject. Will was embarrassed and didn't want to introduce Jack to his work colleagues because he's flamboyant. Felt it set gay men back. Never saw that episode. Did like Will and Grace. You know what the absolute here's what I say about Will and Grace. I thought the first few seasons I watched and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And then I fell off it because Will and Grace, whatever. I think it lost steam after a couple of seasons. It became culturally iconic. But let me tell you something about the first couple of seasons of Will and Grace. The writers, the comedy writers on that show, and we had one of them on the radio show that I was doing at the time because they were from Second City and we had a big connection with Second City. So when they'd come back in the town, they'd come in and hang out. And they said that they were one of the writers on Will and Grace. And in the first couple of seasons, if you watch that show, that that season, or the first season and the second season, have more jokes and punchlines per minute than any sitcom in the history of television. And if you go back, test it, man, everything is. It was just an avalanche of one line after another. And God forbid when Jack and Karen were in the same scene, it was insanely apex level comedy writing. The first two, it was fantastic. And then what I think happened and why I think maybe it changes, because a lot of those original people, I think they were, noted for being so good, and a lot of them went off to start other shows and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Will and Grace's first couple of seasons were great, but I was not familiar about them tackling that subject, but I'm glad they did, because I don't think that it's a subject that is discussed much. I think that anybody who would say, I don't like flamboyantly gay men, I think that they would almost always be immediately shouted down as a homophobe, right? But that is nice to hear that Will and Grace 25 years ago, or maybe, I don't know, was this the reboot? Was this just a couple of years ago? But it's nice to hear that Will and Grace 25 years ago was addressing the exact same subject. That Will felt that the performative gay thing was a throwback to an era when, that's how gays had to act in order to be accepted, because at least they were funny and wild. When they're making us laugh, we're not thinking about butt sex, right? That's how Hollywood cast them, because Hollywood had to have gay acceptance. Even in the 70s, they just theatrical people and whatnot. Peter says, my brother was gay in the late 70s, early 80s, and he was a trendsetter. You could tell he was gay. Passed away of AIDS in 89. Okay, start the show. There you go. Happy times. Happy times. Speaking of AIDS, so there's a new movie on Prime called Balls Up. Balls Up. It stars Peter Paul Walker Smart Hauser and Mark Wahlberg. It's about the premise of the movie Balls Up, the new Mark Wahlberg movie with Walter, Paul, Peter, Simon Hauser. Weird. I'll explain that in a minute. The premise of the movie is that they are condom salesmen and they are trying to get the account for the World Cup. They want to provide the condoms for the World Cup. This is the premise of the new comedy starring Mark Wahlberg, available on Prime, Balls Up. Now, I have to tell you, Mark Wahlberg comedies, I have an incorrect reflexive opinion about Mark Wahlberg. I acknowledge it is incorrect. When I think of Mark Wahlberg, I think terrible actor who does garbage I never want to see. Then I become, my instinctive, thoughtful self, and I go, oh man, Boogie Nights is one of the greatest singular performances ever. What we didn't know about his performance as Dirk Diggler, that was kind of default Mark Wahlberg. And then maybe he wasn't really acting. But that character is fantastic. The Perfect Storm is fantastic. There's, he's had moments, Mark Wahlberg, but I don't know why. Whenever I see a new Mark Wahlberg movie, I go, this is going to be fucking stupid. This is going to be a dumb popcorn movie that, with jokes and fast cars, and there's no story. There's nothing that's going to move me. I have seen this Hollywood popcorn manipulation in 100 different forms, 1,000,000 different times over the past 50 years. That's what I think instantly. When I see a Mark Wahlberg movie, I'm like, and again, you have to understand that, I told you this the other day, that I'm in a part in my life where I don't understand why I don't like anything new. It's like, I don't like anything new anymore. I've got my continue watching option on all of my smart TVs. It's all things that are like 25 minutes in. At about 25 minutes, I lose interest. I'm like, yeah, nah. But Balls Up, this new Mark Wahlberg movie, had Mark Wahlberg doing a comedy film with Walter Paul Mark Smart Hauser. I think his name is Paul Walter Hauser. I think that's it. I should get the name right, because that dude's one of the finest actors working in Hollywood. That dude, Paul Walter Hauser, doesn't he already have an Oscar? Didn't he win an Oscar for playing the guy who tried to blow up the Olympics? Remember the guy Richard Jewell? Remember we falsely accused him? He got nominated, I know. I don't know if he won. He probably should have. Paul Walter Hauser is incredible. He's incredible. And I was intrigued by the idea that he was going to try and do comedy because he's so good at drama. Let's see, can he do comedy? And then I learned this film is directed by Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers. All right, I'm in. So I settled in to watch Balls Up. I got 25 minutes in. I got 25 minutes into this stupid piece of shit before I went, this is dumb. God, this is a dumb movie. There are a couple of funny scenes, though. There are a couple of I'll tell you what, here's what it's worth watching for. Not necessarily the main characters, Mark Wahlberg and Paul Walter Hauser. Okay? I was intrigued to see what they would do, and, it was not great. The chemistry was like, that's weird. It's just weird, uncomfortable chemistry. Here's why you should maybe check it out, because there are a couple of really strong performances from really funny side people. Molly Shannon is very funny. She's always very funny, but she's very funny as their boss at the condom company. She's very funny. Who else is very funny? Benjamin Bratt. Benjamin Bratt as the head of the World Cup Olympics. The head, big, giant, important job. Benjamin Bratt, very funny. Very funny in his role. But really, just fast forward until you get to this guy. This is like, once again, I'm like, this guy is the greatest creator of weird characters that you can drop into a movie for any moment. He slays yet again with a brand new character. This character is Giselle Bunton's brother, all right? And he's a Brazilian drug lord, but he's also Giselle Bunton's brother. And it's Sacha Baron Cohen. Sacha Baron Cohen's performance as Giselle Bundchen's drug lord Brazilian brother in the movie Balls Up is worth all the other stupidity. He's so funny. He's so funny. And it's like the way they, well, I don't want to give away any of the jokes, but it's like from the very beginning, like when you first meet him, he introduces himself and his last name is Bundchen. And you go, oh, like Giselle, like you immediately think, oh, like Giselle. And then you look at his hair and he's got Giselle's exact haircut. It's very funny. It's very funny. Sacha Baron Cohen's a genius. And, anytime Sacha Baron Cohen is allowed to create something totally new that isn't Ali G, that isn't Borat, that isn't any of the other cool things that he's done over the years, I'm in. And this new character as, again, Giselle Bundchen's Brazilian drug lord brother is hysterical. It's hysterical. He also wants everyone to know that he's the beautiful one in the family and that he was supposed to be the supermodel, but, he's the eldest son and the drug lord empire fell to him. And he had to give up being a supermodel, which paved the way through his connections for his sister, who is not nearly as attractive as he is. It's very funny. Anyway, that's the only reason to see Balls Up. Speaking of AIDS, woo! Did you see how we got around? That's right. See what I did? I took Peter's really sad story about his brother who passed away of AIDS, which is a downer, which I probably wouldn't have read if I had pre-read it, but I didn't. I freeballed it, and then I had to turn it into something. So there you got me praising Sacha Baron Cohen. Man, we're taking forever. We're just taking forever to get the show started, aren't we? All right, so let's do this. Before we get the show officially started and we start to look, all right, let's get the show started. Here we go. War is over. Good? Maybe? I don't know. Straight's open? Is it? Okay. Are we celebrating? Or are we all kind of like, all right? All right. But also there shouldn't be any we can't allow a celebration. We can't allow points scored. A manufactured outcome. I mean, you don't get credit. Is he going to take credit for ending another war, one that he unnecessarily started? And I want to address that point because I've got a thought on that. And it's a bit complicated. And we have to go back to last June when we attacked. Remember when we shocked the world? Trump attacked all of the nuclear sites there in Iran. And back in June, they told us that, oh, we were wildly successful. We have ended Iran's ability to have a nuclear program for the next 1,000 years, or whatever they claimed, right? Whatever. It was a big thing. Maybe some of you still had a faith in that institution. And at the time, you were like, okay, well, all right. You know what? Hey, maybe we give Trump a chance. But look at what he did here. And he got the credit and he took the bump and he did the end zone dance. And over the next couple of weeks, a whole lot of legitimate mainstream. I say legitimate, right? And then I follow with mainstream. So some of you are like, bah! A whole lot of real legacy news organizations started reporting over the next couple of weeks that it's not true at all. As a matter of fact, Iran's shit is still, they can still be on track to procure or whatever whatever it is, you know what I mean? I don't know what the exact lingo is, but that's what journalists started to uncover. These are some pictures. These are, there were people there doing investigative reporting, taking pictures of these places that were said to have been completely annihilated, which absolutely were not. Now, again, we're back in June. We're back in June after the wildly successful end of Iranians' nuclear hopes. Back in June. And the journalist said, wait, we're seeing different things. And what were those journalists called? Fake news. Fake news. You're lying. Look, people, again. Hey, we flattened them. It's okay. That's just the thing. Look, during the Trump days, man, we're just going to have these things. And we forgot about it. We moved on. We enjoyed the summer. Again, that was June. A million other things popped up. And we, just whatever, probably forgot about that. We get to this year, and suddenly they're 2 weeks away from being able to build a rocket that can carry a nuke to San Francisco. Or what that was the urgency. That was the reason there was urgency being sold to us. Now, a lot of us, because we're remembering what was said in June, we're like, wait, you said this wasn't going to be a problem in June. We weren't supposed to be worrying about this. And now you're telling us they're 2 weeks away. So that's the bill. That's what they sold us. That's what he said. That's what they did. So let me ask you, because I am one of the people who have pretty much from the beginning gone, he needs a distraction, and this is the Epstein distraction, and I've kind of been leaning on that, but let me ask you this. We said he was lying back in June. I mean, he said he wasn't. He said, I knocked them all out. They can't do anything. We knew he was lying, which means that we also, on some level, knew that Iran must still have the capability. So when it comes around, and finally, it's clear that maybe they were lying back in June and that Iran just kept on with their nuclear thing, and now they're really pissed about what was attempted in June. So now maybe there is some legitimate urgency. See, that message could have been sold easily by an honest person who back in June would have gone, well, we attempted, but it's going to take more and this mission wasn't successful. But we have an administration that is incapable of doing that. We have an administration who in June sold us one thing and then 9 months later sold us a completely other thing. One of the instances was a lie. And all I'm saying is we knew it was a lie in June. Okay? So we don't now get to completely anchor ourselves in. There's no way possible Iran was close. And this is just an Epstein cover-up. What do you mean there's no way possible they were close? We know that the so-called attacks that ended it back in June were bullshit and that it didn't actually affect them. So if we believe that, if we believe that they were lying to us in June, then we have to believe that they were still on track with their nuclear program. So then we must actually accept the possibility that maybe this time, when he said they're 2 weeks in a row, maybe, we don't know. And we're confused because they lied to us in June. That's a possibility. And again, I say this and I offer this out there because I'm hearing a lot of very reasonable people. A lot of people who heretofore was not considered by me to be water carriers for MAGA or any kind of hawkish. But I'm hearing people say, nobody's really comfortable with the idea of Iran having a nuke. And there's a lot of Trump critics who are now leaning on, I thought you got rid of him. Well, I thought you didn't believe that he got rid of him. I mean, if you didn't believe, if you don't get to throw it in his face, and that's this game of, I'm just looking to score points on petty bullshit and catch people on lies. Meanwhile, there really is a world happening. And we don't know at what point was he lying to us. At what point was the president of the United States telling us a lie? Was it in June when he said that he ended their ability to have any kind of nuclear problems? Or was it just recently when he said they were 2 weeks away? If we believe it was a lie in June, then you have to be open to the idea that it was truthful now. That's just the way it works. Uncomfortable as it may be, but that's the middle ground, man. That's how somebody. So I don't know what to think now. I mean, I still do think it was convenient that it would be a distraction for the Epstein thing, but I also believe that he was lying in June. And I also believe that after the attacks in June, that Iran probably just changed up what they were doing and stayed on course, which means it is possible that by the time in February, when Trump's February 28th, when he said, no, they're really there, maybe they were. Maybe they were, and maybe now that we have shown a want or a willingness to be aggressive, maybe that sped up their plan to do whatever they want to do with their nuke. Whatever the history ends up seeing this whole situation as, Trump will never be the hero because of his lies, because of his duplicity. History will never be able to figure out when was he just flagrantly lying to the people and when was he authentically explaining what the world situation is. We don't know because we elected a liar. What am I projecting? He says I'm with Pugs. I mean, certainly I am projecting. We're all projecting. Everybody you listen to is projecting unless they're in the Trump administration. Well, we're all projecting. What we're doing is we're looking at the context clues that life has provided us concerning this situation and trying to figure it out. But all right, so let me ask you, Barney and Byron. When was he lying? Was he lying in June, which would mean that the attack in February was legitimate because he was lying. He didn't end their program. They were still on track. Or was he lying in February when he said they're 2 weeks away? I mean, that's all. They can't both be true, guys. They can't. That's, and let's go from there. Let's hear your answer and let's go from there. Which was the lie? I don't know. Oh, wait. You know what? See, this is the problem with the chat room. We're so far behind. I bet that wasn't even what they were talking about. Barney says, we also have a media that is incapable of doing what you just said. I don't think that's altogether true. What I think we have, CNN, let's use CNN since they are the world leader in this brand, okay? What are you talking about? Fox beats them in ratings in America. The Fox isn't around the globe. Every world leader on the planet watches CNN, dude. That's just how it is. And every traveler in every airport. Or maybe that's headline news they watch in airports. I'm not sure. But, everybody's tinkering with their thing. Every cable news company now has like a new set and a couple of it's the same damn hosts and the same damn thing. But it's, now it looks like a podcast, which is so funny. Because did you see this circle of imitation with an absolute lack of creativity or uniqueness? Podcasts used to look like really cheap TV setups. They looked like, he's trying to kind of replicate what TV is. And now TV is trying to replicate what podcasts have morphed into. It's... So every news set is now different. Anderson Cooper is like got the sleeves rolled up and he's wearing like a white Walter Cronkite shirt now. And the tie is undone. and he's in a newsroom and there's people going back and forth and they're trying to dazzle you with, hey, see, it's different. We're totally different, because they think that's all we care about. And yet they're doing the same coverage with the same attitude with the same people. So here would be my advice to CNN. Fire everyone. Fire everyone. But what? Why, we can't fire Jake Tapper. We would have no. Fire everyone. Hire all new people. You just introduced this Alex guy at 9:00 out of nowhere. And I was, I commented on him a couple of weeks ago going, what the hell is this new CNN show? He's good. He's good. And you know what else he's not? He's not branded. Nobody knows what the fuck that guy is. And I'm watching him and I'm going, okay, this is new. Fire everybody. I want, not that I have any gripes against them. I'm saying you cannot win with the same voices and the same attitudes. These people are all people who matriculated through journalism in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The way journalism was taught back then was designed to capitalize on the commercial nature of television. That is not the thing anymore. Okay. So in their minds, everybody, whether it's the people on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN, all of these people are of the school where we're going to tease you with something and you're going to wait through the commercial. These are the kinds of reflexive broadcast skills they bring. It's from a bygone era. Fire everyone. Get a bunch of young people in there and let them present new shows, okay? That's the only way to make CNN interesting. But every time I tune in and I got to see Jake Tapper, God love her, Aaron Burnett, or Anderson Cooper, I'm like, you know what? I already know what this is going to be. This is just going to be the same old blah. So, yeah, that's how you save news. You get rid of everybody who matriculated through journalism at a time when the entire object was different. All of Anderson Cooper's skills as a broadcaster are designed around sweeping the commercial break. Everything, the way he interviews people. All right, I'm going to have to leave the most interesting questions for the very end, and then I'll tease them into the break so that people will stay with us, and I'll pick up on it on the back end. That is a broken way of looking at how people watch. Nobody sits in front of their TV and waits through fucking commercials anymore. Anderson Cooper should be thinking about saying the most interesting thing in the first 30 seconds, because it's not going to be seen on CNN. It's going to be seen on one of CNN's digital platforms, and it's going to be a clip. That's the way it is now. And CNN still thinks that their audience is a bunch of people just sitting there all day waiting through Carnival Cruise commercials. It's archaic. So I wanted to play something for you. Here. And it goes back to a story that's been occupying the news. And now everybody's opining. Even if in the beginning, a lot of people were running for cover. But now a lot of people are taking their shots at Diana Rossini. But I wanted to play something for you because this is it's an interesting clip here. This is a clip from a couple of years ago. It's Diana Rossini sitting down and talking with Katie Nolan. Katie Nolan's a terrific sports podcaster and personality. And the world of NFL coverage is flooded with interesting personalities, and there are millions of them. And how do you break through? I don't know. How do you go from being a guy who's got 15,000 followers to somebody who's doing the same tweets about the NFL who's got 500,000, or in the case of Shefty, what is the difference there? I don't know. But Katie Nolan broke through. Katie Nolan somehow popped through. And now she's at the top and she's good. Katie Nolan popped through because of her sexuality. Katie Nolan popped through because she's adorable. She's adorable. And she's talking about something that guys are interested in. And why would a guy scroll through Dove Kleinman or Jerry Eccleston or any of these other lesser level football people and then stop on Katie Nolan and listen to her take on whether or not Dexter Lawrence should be traded? Because of what she looks like. Because it's an optics world. So we're going to listen to this piece of tape, and it's Diana Rossini and Katie Nolan talking about the role of women in sports. Now, again, this is a couple of years ago, and it's really interesting. And I like Katie Nolan. Katie Nolan's terrific. But how did I discover that she was terrific? Because she's really cute. And I'm sorry, but the reason that, a guy like Dove Kleinman isn't as high profile as young, cute, optimistic, little sister type, little frat sister type Katie Nolan is because Dove Kleinman is none of those things. And, we're all trying to appeal to men. And a fact of the world, me to be damned, is that men are driven by attraction. You can catch their attention right there if you're a cute girl. I mean, just look at advertising. And why isn't Hollywood filled with, Kathy Bates types? Because you need a couple. But it's because our attention, men, and even women, beauty. I don't even know that this is a gender or sexually specific kind of argument that I'm making. But I think we're all driven and attracted to beauty. So Katie Nolan, who I enjoy and who I think is just adorable, I don't feel that way about Schefter. Like, I don't watch Schefter and get sports news from him and be like, he's so adorable. No. But I do with Katie Nolan. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that Diana Rossini, who is now embroiled in this situation where she's being labeled by all of her sisters in the journalism world, she's being labeled as a bit of a, this is a problem, and she's hurt us. I was listening to Kathleen Brennan, who's kind of like the dean. Christine Brennan, why did I call her Kathleen? Who's kind of like the dean of all this. And, she had some thoughts. And certainly to Katie Nolan, who we're going to watch here, certainly to Katie Nolan, I think that Diana Rossini might be one of those people of the generation ahead, who Katie Nolan may have looked to a Diana Rossini as like, I can do what she does, right? So, all right, so let's watch this. Diana Rossini and Katie Nolan talking about, how difficult,
when you're starting out,
how difficult it is for a female sports reporter in the macho world, the hetero world of NFL football. I thought it was interesting, especially given what we know now about, Rossini.
Is that like a genuine thing? You have to be like, I'm not hitting on you. I'm an insider. I'm just.
Oh, hold on, wait.
I want to know information. Starting out, is that like when you're starting out? Is that like a genuine thing? You have to be like, I'm not hitting on you. I'm an insider. I want to know information. I'm not hitting on you. I'm not interested.
So I ran up to an owner at a meeting once, and I said, hi, Diana Rossini from The Athletic. Would love to get your phone number. I do tons of stories on your team. I'd love to run things by you. And he's like, sure. And his comms director called me later and was like, by the way, he was very confused why you wanted his number. He did not know what that was about.
An owner? He didn't think maybe for a sec that you'd be too young to be asking for his number or giving him your number for any other reason?
There's a lot of jokes I could make right there, but I'm not going to.
And the old Diana would have made them. When you're starting out, is it like a genuine thing? You have to be like, I'm not hitting on you. I'm an insider. I want to know information. I'm not hitting on you. I'm not interested.
Sorry, everything's going crazy. Hold on, everything's going a little crazy. Wait, why did X black me out? Okay, there we go. All right, so I thought that was interesting. I don't want to misread that situation, but it sounded like Diana Rossini was, saying, yeah, let me tell you a story about how we're misjudged. That, I asked this owner for a phone number, and the owner went to his head of PR and said, I don't know what that was about. Was she hitting on me? And they're talking about that as two women who have reached a certain level of a male-dominated industry, and, they're talking about, what it was like for us. So that's exactly why a lot of women in sports, who are especially sports journalists, are a little upset with Diana Rossini because of that, because of, sitting there as a woman who is seen as, person who has made it, succeeded, sitting there comfortably going, yeah, let me tell you what I had to go through. And then to have the news now that she's, banging the head coach of the New England Patriots. Is this the first time she's done anything like that? Is there another side to the story that the owner of the team might be wondering, is she trying to hook up with me? Has she done this before? We don't know. We're just getting one side. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Another thing that I wanted to share with you guys, another clip that I saw that I thought was a lot of fun, and usually I would do this at the end of the show, but I don't know what today's show is going to be like. Today's show, we're just going to riff through stuff. But I found a show, and I found a show that I wanted to show you because I think you might have some fun with it over the weekend if you want to watch it. And it has to do with, it's a social test. Do you guys know who Mark Normand is? Yesterday, I told you about Josh Johnson, who I think is a terrific comedian. Josh Johnson has a great new free special that is on YouTube. Josh Johnson, MAGA Civil War. I think it's very funny. But Mark Normand is also, in my opinion, one of the greats of the modern age. He isn't Sebastian, right? He's not Bill Burr. He's not, he's not that, but he's like really, he's the one that those guys look at and go, holy fuck, is he good? He's good. Mark Normand's very funny. He's got a very unique style and delivery and all that stuff. But Mark Normand has a show, and I don't know how old this show is. I just know that it started popping up on my feed, and I follow Mark Normand, so maybe this is the first time that he's been sharing it. But he's got a show called The Human Trials. And it's on YouTube, and it's a stand-up comedy show. And essentially the premise is, well, I'm going to show you what the premise is, okay? And let's see if you can follow this. And
well, that's the thing about Gen Z.
And
you guys
sorry.
Can't handle it.
Hold on. All right. I don't want you to miss the first joke. Again, it's a show called Human Trials. And it basically tries to see if different specific demographics of people can handles comedy that is anti their sensibilities best, right? Is it like a Gen Z lesbian or anyway, Human Trials? It's very interesting. I want to show you a little bit of it, and I want to talk to you about my thoughts about, well, the profitability that seemingly the entire Gen Z generation has found in victimhood. They're just always a victim. Anyway, check this out. We won't watch the whole thing for obvious reasons, but it's cool. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Well, that's the thing about Gen Z. You guys can't handle a joke, but you'll take a tongue in the ass. Yeah. What if there was a comedy show, actually, comedy experiment,
I see some upset faces in the crowd,
where the whole audience is made up by one specific kind of person? And what if the comic performing on that show had no idea what that crowd was going to be? Comedians have to figure out what the right material to go with, and then the audience has to grapple with how they feel about this. Do I like this person? Do I find them offensive? Well, folks, this show is happening. And it's called Human Trials.
All right, guys, make some noise for your next comic, Mark Normand.
All right, so anyone who knows or is familiar with Mark Normand, you would immediately go, oh, I don't think Gen Z girls are going to like him. I don't think, because he's just not that. Anyway, I'll show you a little example of how they do this show, and then we'll move on.
I used to date a girl who lived in this neighborhood, Jewish gal. Any Jews here? Hey, all right, get them. No, good to have you. Thanks for tunneling. Yeah. Ex-girlfriend was Jewish. Met her on that Jewish app, PayPal.
That chick gonna be an ongoing problem. This broad right here. She doesn't like any jokes.
All right. I'll be a little darker than the other guy as well. Not the black. But, all right. Hey, thank you. Just joking. I'm a comedian. Don't worry. Just zingers. Okay. How about that Mom Donnie? Oh, yeah, there you go. He won. I live next to a billionaire, so he was like, I'm praying to God he doesn't win. I was like, well, he won, so you better start praying 5 times a day. Oh, yeah. He was like, oh, he's a Muslim, though. He's going to be mean to women. I'm like, you're thinking of Cuomo. Okay. And they're like, well, he's anti-Semitic. I'm like, well, he's doing free buses, not trains. Okay. That's for the Jewish gal. All right. We're back. Cool. I know race is touchy, especially for my old honky face, but I think we're all... Thank you. Thank you, Queen. Okay. That was the gayest moment of my life. But, yeah. But, yeah, everybody's full of shit when it comes... I was talking to one guy at my last day job. I was like, hey, man, what's the name of that new girl and the new guy on the 5th floor, the really tall black guy? This guy goes, whoa, I don't see color. I was like, really? Come on. Really? So I looked this guy right in the eye and I was like, hey man, it's cool. I'm black. And he was like, no, you're not. I'm like, aha. Yeah. You may not be racist, but you are a liar. All right. Cool. I just got back from Mexico City doing some shows. That's a cool place. Although you can't drink the water there, so I got the diarrhea. Yeah. I was at a bar. Bartender handed me a cocktail. I drank it. He goes, uh-oh, the ice cubes. You got to watch out for that ice, too. They'll take you out. He goes, I'm thinking about moving to America. You got any tips for me? I was like, yeah, watch out for ice. So, yeah, we kept in touch. He's in a cage now. But sweet kid. Just joking. All right. I told that joke in Canada. Some guy goes, hey, I'm Mexican. I was like, whoa, you made it to level 2. Well done, senor.
All right, so that's just an example of it. And then they go to the audience, that comedian leaves, and then the guy comes out with a clipboard and they start talking to the audience. And we start to hear from this specific group of people what they thought of this comedian. And then they bring out another comedian and then they do it all over again. Anyway, here's the interesting thing that I saw. That was a room full, and again, anecdotal, because it's just, Pugs now understands race relations because he watched a Mark Norman clip on YouTube. No, but from that, what I took from it was that was a room filled with Gen Z girls of a very specific age, of all different sexual orientations, some urban, some city, a couple rural, all different kinds. They were just Gen Z girls. That was it. Here is what we found out at the end of it. The ones who seemed to run to victimhood most easily were the white Gen Z girls. The black Gen Z girls, or the Gen Z girls of color who were in the audience, they didn't have a problem at all. They were laughing at the jokes. They were having fun. But my takeaway was, what is it? So that was all one group. It was Gen Z girls. White girls, black girls, Chinese girls, Latino girls, Indian girls, Arab girls, whatever, just straight girls, lesbian girls, Gen Z girls. And it was, and if you go on to watch that, you'll see the interviews in the audience afterwards. There was this one particular girl who's, she's a white girl, and she didn't like any of it. And, a lot of it was, not straight up Mark Norman. It wasn't his A-list material, but it was stuff that he was obviously doing to see how much he could get away with. But she didn't like any of it. And then, she started talking about herself, not about what was offensive, but about herself and why she has a right to be offended. And she's like, well, I am a gender fluid woman, and I have to say that after hearing this, I heard these straight girls, or she called them whatever, cis girls, or I heard the cis girls laughing at things that I didn't think were very funny, and it only reaffirmed to me that I am, in fact, more gender fluid than maybe I had thought. And it was just, so self-centered. And then they'd go to a black girl and they'd be like, what about you? And she'd be like, I thought it was funny when he said, and then she'd have a specific thing. She didn't make it about herself and why that's wrong because it affects me this way. It was an explicitly white thing. I thought that was interesting. It was real eye-opening to me. I don't know. Oh, really, Pugs? Now you're noticing that it's Gen Z white girls who are the most obnoxious? They really were. They were like the most obnoxious. I mean, even in one of the clips there we saw where I think he did some joke and he goes, no, okay, I'll stop. And it was literally the black girl in the front row who goes, no, go on. Wouldn't you think that just based on the socioeconomic history of this country and our racial divides and all of that thing, wouldn't you think that it is the historical victims of so-called oppression in this country that might be the most sensitive to that stuff, and not the latest generation of the colonial ruling class who are performatively pretending like this is terrible? Meanwhile, the black girls who, my grandpa was a slave. The black girl's like, no, go on. That's funny. We're just telling jokes. These Gen Z girls have somehow chosen, or probably more to the point, been programmed that they can get some mileage in their life out of being victimized, out of being the one who goes, I don't like that, man. And maybe it's because they were raised in an era where they can, if they're in their living room and they say, Dad, he's being a pig, Dad'll say, oh, shut up and go to your room and toughen it out. But, these are people, victim farmers, if you will, victimhood farmers, who came up in an era where they can run to their room and go to their social media pages, and suddenly they'll have 1,000 people going, you go, girl, you stay strong. And every one of those things that they read. So I don't even necessarily think it's their fault. I just think that as I've been tracking the last couple of years here, we are seeing real obvious examples of how our children, this generation, the first generation who is exclusively being raised in the social media era, my son has never known anything but social media. We're starting to see real world examples of how that is changing us as people. And according to that YouTube show, it's white girls. It's white girls who are leading the pack. Although, to be fair, that was only what we were seeing. So I want to see a whole room full of Gen Z guys. I want to see if there's, Anyway. All right. That's Mark Norman's new show, Human Trials. I don't even know if it's his show, but I found it, because I subscribed to him and he's promoting it. And it seems like he's pretty important. And he's certainly the most high profile of all the comics who are on that, although some of them were very good. All right. Elon Musk is out there tweeting about how we should all be rich like him. Say it loud, brother. Elon Musk tweeted, let me read this to you. He says, Elon Musk, this was earlier today, I guess. No, or last night, 11:05 p.m. Elon Musk, I guess I got to show it to you, right? Well, picture or it didn't happen, right? Isn't that the world we live in? All right, so here's Elon Musk's post that a lot of people are getting excited about. Oh, are you, you little bitches? Elon Musk says universal high income via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI. What? Wait a second. Hold on. Let me read that one again. There's more, but my head hurts. Okay. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, is tweeting universal high income via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI. Period. End of sentence 1. Sentence 2 from Elon Musk. AI robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increase in the money supply. So there will not be inflation. What? I don't know what any of that means. What? How does that work? Tired head. Is my nose bleeding? Seriously. Feels like my nose is... I don't get any of that. What does that mean? What do you mean, Elon Musk? Universal high income via checks issued by the federal government is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI. AI robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increases in the money supply. So there will not be inflation. Now, and by the way, first three words from the world's richest man. First 3 words. Universal high income. You're going to make us all rich. He's like, hey, you can all be rich if you just bow down and suck my sack. Okay, let's put Elon in charge. This guy says we're all going to get rich. I don't know what this means. I don't know how this works. I do know that, okay, tell me more. Right? Because we don't have, there's no jobs anymore. There's not going to be a working class. There is no working class now. We got Chinese slave labor and a bunch of Indians who work for pennies a day. By the way, I mean actual Indians. People in the Philippines, putting our shoes together. We don't have any of that here. We don't have that. because our standard of living dictates that people who put shoes together have to be able to afford to put kids through college, because that's America, and we can't afford shoes that are 100 times more expensive than the pennies that we pay the laborers who make our Nikes. We're not going to do it. See, it doesn't work. We don't have anything in this country. All we are is consumers. We're just gross mass consumers of shit. We don't make it. We buy it. And now the wave of AI is coming, and that's why we hear the importance of this like sort of global war for AI dominance. And I guess it's really important that in the same way that we dominated industry in this world for decades, generations, it's what made America great. We never stopped being great. Don't fucking blaspheme my country in that way, you fucking haters. Anyway, so, I mean, is AI evil? Okay, I don't know. I don't want to be involved in that argument. Now is not the time for that argument. Although 20 years ago was the time for that argument, but nobody knew what that concept was. So AI is here, and it's a thing, and I use it every day. Every day, I'm hooked. I'm in. Whatever. And it is clear to me that it is going to take away even all of the other jobs that were left after we sent all the, making shoes and shit like that to other countries. Now, the guys who own those companies who ship those jobs, they're still here. They're still here. They live in the best houses and the best neighborhoods and the best places in this country. They sold our jobs. They made all that profit. And we just, we're like, it's cool that they're like that. That's how a whole bunch of you see them. You're all a bunch of class traders. Bunch of working class dreamers thinking that if I just suck up to the guy at the country club, maybe they'll offer me a membership. No, they don't want you. Go park their car, dude. That's how they see you. So AI's coming. It's going to take every other job, every job that people thought were going to be safe, because I'm not going to dig ditches. I'm going to teach myself to code. I told you about my friend whose kid has been in coding since they're like 7 years old. He goes to coding every day after nursery school because they're always going to need somebody to code computers. No, they won't. AI can do it. AI does it now. All that shit. Remember, you drive your kid to coding class. Remember, you're like, because he's got to have a job because I'm a responsible mom. God love you. You were thinking the right way back then, but that's fucking not going to be a thing. It's not a thing. Coding, that's all AI. They can do it quicker, better, blah, blah. Now, it'll take a human being to do it in the beginning, but then AI replicates and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. So Elon Musk is like, yeah, there's going to be 0 jobs in this country. We got drones delivering fucking McDonald's, man. You know what that means? That means not only do we not need people in McDonald's restaurants anymore, because who the fuck is going to eat there when they can drop it down your chimney like Santa, but we also don't even need drive-through workers. We got robotic fucking android drones dropping filet-o-fishes down people's smokestacks, programmed by an AI intelligence that receives the order and then does. There are going to be no jobs for anybody, anything. The shit jobs are going away. That's why, like I say, whenever I see one of those little delivery robots, and sometimes they need our help, sometimes they need you to press a button. Anytime I run across one of them little robots, I say hello to it. Well, hello, Mr. Robot. Because one thing I know from watching sci-fi, robots will remember. They don't forget. They're going to remember who was nice to them when they were doing the little Uber robot delivery food thing. Yeah, that's right. So 30 years, I'm going to have a robot. I'm going to be dying in a hospital in 50 years. Because I'll probably live to be well over 100. Anyway, I'll be dying in a hospital. And then one of the robotic doctors will come in and it'll be really nice to me. And then it'll kind of wink and then it'll play on its little video screen all the times I said hi to robots back in the 2020s. That's kind of how my fantasy goes. So that's why I'm nice to robots, because they will remember and there will come a time. The hive mind, that's what I believe. The robots are all going to have the hive mind. So if I'm nice to a little food delivery robot in 2026, the robot that's got to save my life in 2070, He's going to remember. That was nice. So universal high income from the world's richest man. Have no idea how he imagines that's going to happen. He says here the checks will be issued by the government, but I damn well bet that the companies that will be making all of this money, right, they're going to be private, right? So we're going to have this new level. We're going to have the government that issues the checks that keep the peasants in order, but then there's going to be the class of the people who still run the companies that have the AI. They just won't have to deal with a workforce anymore, so that's what they want. And I'm certain that the promised universal high income will eventually be nothing but, everybody's living in fucking state-run tenements. The same capitalists who were wildly against communism back in the Cold War era will now be embracing it for us. For us. They will. That's the influence of what we're going through right now, the Russian oligarch system. So, all right, Elon, whatever. I'm awaiting your update on how you're going to make us all rich for doing absolutely nothing. All right, let's talk about the 11th scientist, because this is absolutely insane. Yesterday, I did the story about how we've got all of these scientists, 10 of them, who've gone missing. All 10 of these scientists, I did the story yesterday. You can go back and listen to it. All 10 of these scientists have ties to top secret clearances and space programs and all of these cutting edge technologies. 10 of them over the last 3 years have all gone missing or died in very strange circumstances. Now, when I say 10, it's like 7 of them just went missing and like 3 of them died. It's a weird imbalance. And they're all somehow tied to each other through the shared programs that are all very top secret. We did the whole thing yesterday. And the reason that it became a news story yesterday is because Carolyn Leavitt in the White House was directly confronted about it by multiple reporters. One reporter asked about it, and she kind of went, well, if that really is a thing, then we'll look into it. And then another reporter asked a follow-up to it, and she said, well, as I said, we're definitely going to look into it. This is important. And then she exited, and as she was exiting, somebody, a third reporter, yelled, it's a general, for crying out loud. A General McCaslin, the guy who ran Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is the United States military's top secret science lab. And if you're in UFO circles, it's like the place where the aliens are. The stupids, the entry-level UFO people, they're still out there dicking around at Area 51. But those of us next-level UFO people, we know it's Wright-Patterson. It's in Ohio, man. That's where that shit is. LeBron. It explains LeBron. LeBron is like an alien from Wright-Patterson out there near Akron. So how shocked would I be, to come home yesterday, pull up my laptop, start looking for stories about today, and find breaking news. There is now an 11th scientist who is linked to the 10 who have gone missing. That's right, guys. An 11th. How many more? How many more is it going to take before people start taking this story seriously? Now, this is interesting because people are now looking at the situation. So this 11th scientist, this is not an 11th scientist who went missing this morning. This is an 11th scientist who went missing, I think, back in 2023. Okay, so this is one of the early ones that went missing, and they didn't. I guess they didn't include. I don't know. They didn't put it together. But now, because people are looking at this story, they're starting to widen the net, and they're going, "Wait a second. Maybe this didn't begin when we thought it began. Maybe the guy that we've got is the number one, the first guy to go missing. Maybe that's actually like the 5th guy to go missing." So they've opened the net and they've discovered this UFO link scientist who warned my life is in danger before she was found dead at 34. Okay, so she's dead. Becomes 11th mysterious case tied to U.S. top secret programs. What do you need, a documentary? What do we got to do here? What do you people? This is a very real thing that's just happening. And we're like, oh, there's an 11th, huh? What was she doing? Oh, she was the world's leading expert on anti-gravity propulsion. Oh, really? So UFO engines. This woman's specialty was that she believed she had figured out how these aerial phenomena that we see move the way they do. And she had been working. Well, I'm going to read it to you, okay? A scientist experimenting with anti-gravity tech, was found dead at 34 after warning that her life could be in danger. She told people for weeks that things were getting weird. She told people for weeks that she didn't feel safe and that the level of stuff that she was doing didn't feel right. And then she shot herself in the head. Shot herself in the head. Would you be surprised to learn that, again, no investigation into this? No. Suicide, gunshot wound, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Boom, that's it. We're done. That's all we need. Even though her people are like, she wasn't suicidal. But she did say that she was concerned about the stuff that she was working on and that she had felt at times threatened by. She literally went on record with people and said, I feel like my life might be in danger. Amy Eskridge, she was only 34 years old when she allegedly died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head in Huntsville, Alabama, back in June of 2022. Okay. However, neither the police nor the medical examiners held investigation or have publicly released any details. And there is no indication that an investigation ever having taken place. So they were just like, hey, she's real important with all kinds of top secret stuff. Wonder why she shot herself in the head. I don't know. Let's move on. What? They didn't investigate? And by the way, you know she's real. You know that she's real. She's in Huntsville, Alabama. She is one of the world's leading researchers on anti-gravity propulsion, engine propulsion that uses anti-gravity technology that we don't have here, that we theoretically think could be a thing. That's what she's working on in Huntsville, Alabama. And if you know anything about Huntsville, Alabama, you know that it's Rocket Town. That Huntsville, Alabama is where the world's leading rocket scientists work and live, and established by Werner von Braun back in the 1960s. It's where he set up his base of operations, and it became Rocket Town. So this is not just somebody, he's in Northern California. He used to work for NASA back in the 90s, but he's been a home hobbyist, and no, he's missing. No, this is a legitimate world-renowned scientist in Huntsville, Alabama, Rocket Town, USA, doing work and rubbing shoulders with all the world's leading researchers on fucking rockets and all of that stuff. Say what you will about Alabama, and we all like to go, look, but Huntsville, Alabama, I believe, is one of the highest IQ towns in America because of the rocket scientists industry that's there. Amy Eskridge, 34, she was found dead of a gunshot wound in her Huntsville, Alabama home. Before her death, she was openly researching and trying to develop anti-gravity technology. That's a way to control and cancel out gravity, which could revolutionize space travel and energy production. Anti-gravity propulsion has also been widely discussed by UFO researchers who have claimed that this advanced technology is exactly what allows alien spacecraft to achieve the impossible speeds we are seeing on video. You know, when you see the dash video from the F-16 pilots and they've got the orb that's going pew, 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 right? How does it do that? That's not that's not an Earth engine. That's not combustion and propulsion against gravity and drag. They're doing things. So that's what she's working on. In 2020, Eskridge stated that she was planning to present novel foundational work regarding anti-gravity, but needed top secret approval from NASA to go public. So she's working on this stuff with NASA. She had a breakthrough. She wanted to introduce it to the scientific community. And she's like, well, I've got stuff. I've got stuff that's going to rock the world, but I just need NASA to approve it first before I can, because it's partly theirs. Since her passing, shocking details, including unearthed interviews with Eskridge herself and independent findings submitted to Congress, have claimed that the death was not a suicide and was instead part of an elaborate murder conspiracy. Eskridge's death marks the 11th person with ties to America's space or nuclear secrets programs who have died or mysteriously vanished in recent years, putting U.S. national security experts on edge. It should be putting all of us on edge. Why is this happening? Why is it a coincidence? Okay, if it's a coincidence, fine, whatever. I remember a couple of years ago, some of you might remember, a couple of years ago, like porn stars were dying like every couple of days. Blah, 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 they were dropping, and I'm like, who is killing our porn stars? Nobody looked into that either. Turned out it was fentanyl. That was killing our porn stars. I don't think that's the case with these scientists, though. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to give myself a fresh cup of coffee. I'm going to go to the bathroom. We're going to come back with Maddie. We're going to talk about the old school art of deception that we called lovingly back in the day catfishing, and how it's making a return, but this time catfishing, the celebrity edition. And we're going to talk about this volleyball story, this collegiate volleyball story that's coming out of California, where one of the players on the UC Irvine team, Jordan Lucas, is flamboyant. He's very flamboyant, and his celebrations on court, maybe rub people the wrong way, but it certainly rubs Charlie Brandt the wrong way. And Charlie Brandt is a broadcaster, a guy who does the commentary for the games. And Charlie Brandt said something about the celebrations. And now, you can imagine, Charlie Brandt's like a 68, 70-year-old white man. He said something about the flamboyant. And now we got a whole conversation to have, because Charlie Brandt's done. He doesn't have a job anymore. And we're going to listen to the comments. We're going to watch some of the behavior, and Maddie's going to bring that to the table. No, that's it. Those are the two things. All right. So give me a quick break. We're going to come right back. Actually, this one might be a little bit longer because I got to run to my card because my phone charger, but that's not going to be like 15 minutes. Give me about five to 10 minutes. Oh man, I hate to say 10 minutes because that's a long time. It'll be less than that. But just give me a little bit longer than normal, and we'll come back and we'll get the show back on the rails. Okay? All right. We'll do that. Appreciate you. All right, we are back. Thank you for that, Mr. Popular. A reward is waiting for me. I just got a text where a reward is waiting for me. Oh, whatever could that be? Oh, very exciting. Probably one of them deals. Remember back in the day when the FBI would they'd send out like notices to people like, you want a free flat screen TV? All you gotta do is come on down and claim it. And then people came for their free TVs and they got arrested. That was genius. That was when America used to be fun. Now you probably couldn't do it. You can't openly trick people. Why not? Well, they're all criminals. Then at some point, weren't they deceptive? What? Why can't, you can't do that. I don't even know if that's why they don't do it anymore. But doesn't it seem like maybe that was a thing? It was so much fun. Like your local news would like every time they do it, your local news would cover it and they'd be like, and today on the South Side, the federal government participated in another one of their free TV giveaways, which in fact turned out to be a warrant roundup. I don't know. I just figure those things went away because people got butthurt. We're all butthurt about everything. You know who's also butthurt about everything, but in the most fun way possible? It's Maddie. So we're going to talk to Maddie here. Maddie's got a couple of things. We're going to talk about catfishing, the celebrity edition, and then we're also going to talk about volleyball. That's right, volleyball. We're going to do volleyball coverage on the show because there's an interesting story going on. Why isn't this? There she is. All right, hold on. Are you there?
I am.
There she is. All right.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Let's see. What is on Maddie's mind today? We mentioned the catfishing story. So
Catfishing, yeah.
But this is, have I been phrasing it or presenting it correctly? Catfishing, the celebrity edition?
I would say that's pretty much dead on it.
All right. Tell us about this. What's happening there?
Well, I want to give us a little throwback. We constantly circle back around to how old we are, because I remember on MTV back when there was still good things to watch on MTV, the show Catfish. Remember, did you watch that show, Paul?
I did not, but I was familiar with it. Yeah, early 2000s, late 90s, something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it wasn't on my constant, like, always look, but yeah, if nothing else was on, there could be something interesting. And it was, to me, it was one of those shows that once you watched one episode, you were kind of like invested, because then you really got involved in what was actually happening between these two people. But, the thing about the catfish stuff was that largely what you would discover through these episodes was that it was really just a lonely person who was looking for a human connection.
Yeah. Okay. So first, let's be very basic. So just explain what catfishing is for people who may not be, familiar with it.
And I think we can all remember, I think probably the most prominent story that ever came out about catfishing was with Manti Te'o, the football player in college football. I think he was going to Notre Dame, and he got catfished. And, and that kind of became a scandal, which was really kind of unfortunate for Manti, because people kind of then reframed it to make it look like he was complicit in this in some way and looking for sympathy and things like that. But basically, catfishing is when somebody pretends to be somebody that they aren't in order to create a romantic connection. And sometimes it's men positing themselves as women. Sometimes it's women being women, but it's just that they're not as attractive as they wish they were.
And it is a uniquely internet age phenomena where people are presenting themselves anonymously online as something that they're not.
An element of a way to hide behind something in order to really pull this whole thing off, right? But several years ago, this started to take new form, and now I think what we would more look at this like, because I don't think we really get to see these kinds of stories when it's only about someone misleading someone about their appearance or the need for a romantic connection, as much as now what it has become is a way to grift people for money. And so now we call these romance scams.
Okay. All right. So give me an example here. We got some videos. Are we showing videos? I have them here if I'm supposed to show something.
You can certainly show whichever one of these 3 videos. But anyway, so, now with MTV kind of dying off, there's a group of people who are out on internet, social media. I think they're called Catfish Online. They might have a web page at presence or what have you. But they're basically, they are kind of like, I would say, a private investigative service where when a family member sees another family member and they believe that they're being taken advantage of, they're reaching out to these people saying, can you help me? My mom, my aunt, my sister, my brother, or whomever is giving money to this person. And I keep telling them this person doesn't exist. Can you help? Can you come and step in and help out? And these people do an amazing amount of research, like hundreds of hours worth of research. And when they finally do confront the person that they believe is being catfished, they're bringing in really documentable evidence as to why this isn't true or real. And I am always very interested in this because I've actually had a friend that I know is being catfished. Have you ever had anybody in your life that you thought was being catfished?
No, but I'm a guy. No, no, I don't think this is a thing that
just men.
None of my friends. Let's just put it that way.
Well, none of your friends. Okay.
None of my friends.
I have a female friend who
this seems to be the kind of thing that happens to sad, desperate, lonely people who don't otherwise have a lot of friends, because it seems like the sort of situation that if a person had friends, the friends would be like, you're a fool. This is not happening. But please continue.
The friends of these people are in almost every circumstance. And like in this particular instance, it is kind of confusing to me because this particular lady, number one, she doesn't seem to be unintelligent. She has family in her life. I think it's the daughter that actually reached out to the company. It's almost unusually confusing as to why she would have fallen for this. But in her particular set of circumstances, which makes it even more bizarre, is that the person who is romance scamming her is pretending to be comedian Matt Rife.
Okay, all right. The king of the crowd work, Matt Rife, the spooky paranormal guy, Matt Rife.
And the only thing I can kind of make sense to me in some way is that for some reason there's enough of an element of truth here for her to make this make sense, because we do know that Matt Rife often is branded as a comedian who leans into the idea in his performances about being attractive to older women. He talks about being a loving MILFs. He talks about even loving MILFs.
Throughout the course of his crowd work, which is a very big part of his stage act, he will go through and he will find somebody's mom or something, and it'll start like fully with. So let me play this video. I'm gonna play the first video that you sent me. Here, let me see if we get it to share properly. Is it sharing? I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, it's sharing. Okay, now let me refresh it, because there's no way to back it up on these stupid Facebook Reels. They are not friendly for this. All right, here we go. Oh, and now I got no sound.
Right. She's about to sell her house. We fly out.
Hold on, I got too much sound. How do I turn the sound down on this? Hold on. Seriously, that's really loud. There is no way to turn the sound down. There's mute and unmute. I'm sorry, Maddie. Your non-stream compliant audio and video is just a problem at the moment.
For fuck's sake.
Hold on. That's why. All right. No, I don't want to reload the whole show. I do not want to reload the whole show. Let me reload this. It's going to be really loud. Let me see if I can turn it down. I can turn it down this way. Yeah. All right. Let's try this. All right. Here we go. One more time. This is the Matt Rife woman who's being conned online by somebody who claims to be Matt Rife, right? That's the setup. Okay. Here we go. Well, no, it's not even that one. All right.
Right. She's about to sell her house. We fly out to San Jose to stop her from doing that and reveal the truth. See what happens.
That's a ring he initially sent me.
In the mail?
Yes.
Do you have it?
Yes.
Can you take it out?
Yeah. I took it.
So this old woman, God love her, has convinced herself that handsome, fit, 30-something A-list comedian Matt Rife is somehow in love with her, and she needs to sell her house in order to continue the relationship.
Because she's going to send him $2 million.
Why? But why does she think she needs to send very famous and successful comedian Matt Rife, who just recently very publicly bought the Paranormal Museum for a couple $1 million? Why does she think she needs to? I mean, where is the disconnect here? There's something wrong with this woman, yes?
Great question. I mean, certainly there's always that possibility, but I think what we're skipping over is the part where these people are very good at what they do.
All right, let's keep watching. Here we go.
To my jeweler, because I'm going, this thing doesn't even have a hallmark on it. What's going on? And he said, oh no. Okay, so the reason I don't wear it is because whatever the metal is, I think it's like nickel and something, a couple of different metals together. And it had been dusted with like white gold dust. Well, as soon as that wore off, it starts turning my finger green. And that was my thing, you know, it's like he's going, I want to pick something out. I go, I don't.
So did he send her a ring? The person claiming to be Matt Rife? Is that what I'm looking at here?
Yes.
So he sent her a ring, and it turned out to be a fake piece of garbage that turned her skin, right?
Finger green. But keep going, because because she doesn't want to wear the ring, she does something even more bizarre.
Okay.
I don't get a say in this.
But then the ring in this video right here,
Different.
I hope you don't mind me asking.
that's not the same ring.
It's a different ring.
Did he ask your ring size before he sent it, or?
Yeah. I mean, I've said all of my life.
Hold on. Is she doing video chats with this person?
Don't know. Don't know.
What did we just see there? We just saw like a snippet, and I can't back up.
Yeah, no, you know what? You're right. She does.
But it's not Matt Rife.
Well, it is his video, but they superimpose the other person's voice over the top of it. So there again, because this person is a famous person, there's all kind of video footage where he's throwing stuff up on Instagram probably and going, hey, I'm going to be in Norfolk,
She's
Virginia
being
this
so
weekend.
AI lip syncing and manipulation. She's being wow. Okay, wow. Still, come on, lady, but wow.
I will never get a
The
tattoo.
heart wants what the heart wants, Pugs.
I guess.
Ever. I won't do that to myself. And one day I was driving past a tattoo place and I just pulled in. And I had them put the MSR on my ring finger, which is Matthew Stephen Rife.
From Matt Rife?
So I did something that's probably, you know, way out of line, but I don't care.
So go
And then
ahead
I
and
told
pause
him.
it there. So she tattooed her ring finger with Matt Rife's initials now.
Yeah, she's not mentally stable. This is, you know, people in her life are right to be intervening here. You know, the question becomes, at what point do people stop having a right to fuck up their life? You know, do we have a right to stop her from fucking up her life? I don't know.
It's very crazy, but you know, but she has an excuse or an explanation for everything, obviously, and of course, like I said, because this person is in the public eye, his life is for public consumption, and I mean, quite frankly, currently Matt Rife is involved in a very serious online present relationship with a young lady by the name of Mariah Morse, who is an Instagram model. She's a bikini
right,
model.
His real girlfriend.
His real girlfriend,
Yeah.
right? A much younger, very fit, a health influencer who competes at these like bikini competitions and stuff like that. So you would certainly wonder, but again, she's got an excuse for everything that is being fed to her by the perpetrator of these crimes, that's saying, oh, my PR, my publicist said this would be is something I should do, you know, or what have you. And maybe in respect to the money situation, maybe it's the quote unquote Matt Rife guy going, well, I'm going to invest in something and I thought you might want to go in with me, or why don't, you know, because most of the time what these guys will do is they will say, I want to buy a house with you, and why don't we put up equal money to do this? right?
Yeah, I get it.
So you know what I'm saying? Like they're very clever with this, and and largely all of this comes from Nigeria. It's literally like a mob organization. They large networks of these guys that sit around in rooms that like it's like drug dealers who are selling drugs, but they like teach all of these younger Nigerian guys how to do these really effective romance scams. And when you start to dig into how much money they make off of this, and so the total amount of how much money these kinds of scams generate, you get to a very real reason as to why it doesn't stop on their side, is because it is extremely profitable, and they are so good at it, and they put so much effort into it and do it with so many different people that even if one or two catch on really quickly at the forefront of this, they don't care. And largely they're not here in the country. There's no real law enforcement.
Yeah, yeah, it's a problem. Yeah, okay, so look, honestly, when I look at this and I'm watching this woman, and this is a good story. It's an interesting story, and but I don't look. I don't feel comfortable laughing at the retarded kid on the playground who can't match his clothes. Right? I don't feel. This makes me very uncomfortable. This woman is obviously ill. There is a problem with this woman. It's oh God, and there are cons out there.
Not suggesting we laugh at her.
No, I know, and I'm not trying to put that. That's not what I'm saying. That's not. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I mean, this is the story I want to talk about. But seeing her now, it makes me feel more bad for her and frustrated because there's nothing we can do about these Nigerian con men. They've been around since the internet was invented, and it's just. My question is, where does our responsibility to our fellow, and in this case, if this was your mom or your neighbor or whatever, I mean, where does our responsibility end? Where we just got to be like, okay, I said my piece, you're going to lose your house.
Well, and like I said, I mean, like to connect this to my friend that I had this conversation with, it's really weird when you try to explain to them like, hey, this is not real. They're so invested in it that you have to kind of tread cautiously with them. Like I had to kind of say, look, just do me a favor, do some research. Don't take everything on its face with this person. This my particular friend, now she had not given him money, but my caution to her was, trust me when I say this is where this is headed. And they were trying to get her to hold some crypto for him. And so their scams work in two different ways. Number one, if they think they can get money out of the victim, they will try to do that. But also what they have been known to do is they will use another victim to launder this money for them. Like they will set them up as the person who receives cash money or gifts or anything like that, that then they go and they convert this money into some sort of like a fundable token or something that they can then send over to Nigeria, which then makes that person implicated in something that is a true crime. And so it's really, really divisive. And, but yet at the same time, you're right, the conversations are uncomfortable and these people are not very willing to accept the truth behind these things. So it's really difficult.
All right, let's move on to the other story that I wanted to talk about, which is the men's volleyball story coming to us out of Cal Irvine, University of California System, Irvine campus.
Yeah.
This is a volleyball story that concerns a volleyball player by the name of Jordan Lucas. He is probably the most high-profile volleyball player currently in men's collegiate volleyball because of his antics, we will call them. He is, well, he performs, he celebrates. Let's put it this way. He celebrates in a way that is celebration. Yeah. He celebrates in a way that is rubbing some people the wrong way. And when I say that, volleyball institution Charlie Brandt, who was a commentator on the UC Irvine games, I believe, did you tell me that he was doing it voluntarily or whatever? Just, I don't know what it was.
He was volunteering to be a commentator at the UC Irvine because I think he went to UC Irvine.
Maybe.
And, and is an alumni. And so Jordan Lucas attends CSUN, that's California State University in Northridge, and they recently had a match with UC Irvine. And while they were there,
Right.
Jordan was doing what Jordan was doing. And if you want to, I don't know if you want to roll tape or if you want to cut over.
Yeah. But I want to finish framing it, because what we now know is that Charlie Brandt said some things during the game between UC Irvine, who he comments for. He basically, well, I'm going to let you hear it here. Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
I just lost it. All right. I know I got it, but my page just went back to the top because Google Drive is just not as comfortable as it should be. All right, here it is. Are these the comments? Yeah, we're going to listen to the comments here. Let me.
22-21. I'm amazed Jordan Lucas had.
Can you hear that?
I can.
You can? All right, I think the chat. All right, how about now? I did something that I never do, which is just completely refresh the show. Can you hear me now? Can't even type a message. Can't even type a message. Exit page. Hello, 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 hello. Type a message. Nope, can't type a fucking message. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, the computer's not where it's the computer. It's like things aren't even clicking. The mouse isn't working. Oh, now you can hear? Now you got me. I don't know why I can't. Yeah, no, there's I don't know if it's the internet connection. The internet connection is not great today. But here's what happened, guys. So in the middle of that conversation, the camera went out. The camera went black. And so that's an easy enough fix. I just unplugged the camera and plugged it back in, and we fixed it. But then I guess from that point the sound had gone out too, and there was no way to really recalibrate or redo the sound. Well, I don't know what's happening. All right. Well, all right. We don't need to back, guys. In my mind, I was like, all right, we're done. I'm sorry. It's been a fun week. We'll research. We'll do that on Monday. The Jordan, if it's still a thing, we'll do this volleyball story because I really wanted to talk about that because socially speaking, culturally speaking, within the realm of the culture wars, the thing that we love so much, within that realm, I mean, I think there's a really interesting conversation to have about among those of us who are fully accepting and non-homophobic of gay men, people like me. I'm totally accepting. But there is a conversation to be had about, we don't care anymore. Why can't we I don't understand why. And I do have real opinions about where that comes from. And I do think it's, I like to say, I'll accept anybody. Like I won't judge you for the way you. Well, I mean, if you're a dick, I judge you. But I'm like, if you're making some life choices that are maybe outside the norm, I don't judge you if you're authentic. If you're authentic and sincere, and this is who you are, and I'm like, that dude. One of my favorite people in the world is Dick Hunter. That guy lives a completely different kind of existence. Most people who don't know him might go, that guy's kind of odd. I'm like, no, he's fascinating and brilliant, and so if you really are who you are, then I'm going to be like, wow, that's kind of cool. How'd you get this way? Let me learn a little bit more. But if I perceive you to be faking it or performing or being inauthentic because you believe that this is how the person you want to be behaves, then, that's, and I think we are actually seeing some of that with, gay men, let's just say gay men. And I don't, the other part of that thing about gay men, and it's a very real question. You can't tell me it's not real. You can't tell me it's not true. In fact, there was an entire documentary made about it. What is up with the gay man lisp? The lisp. Is that also performative? Because that is how gay men sounded, according to Hollywood. If you wanted to indicate that one of your characters were gay, but you couldn't really say he was gay, you would have him come in and he would talk like this. And everything was just, it's just so wonderful. So why is it now so many gay men, especially openly happy, proud gay men, why is it that they seem to be doing that? Is it performative or is it, I don't know. Is that what happens when you like stuff in your butt? I don't know. I can't explain it. Is it performative? Because I'll tell you this, there's also a lot of men who aren't gay who do that. Like I've known a couple of men who you find out that they're not gay and you're like, really? He's not gay? He seems a little lispy is what the term used to be. And again, talking about these things, come on, guys. There's never a negative that comes from people sincerely talking and being curious about one another. Now what there is what we talked about earlier with Gen Z. There is now some sort of emotional profit from being offended by that kind of talk. You can now say, I will not have this conversation because it just doesn't, right? We talked about that earlier. That's inauthentic. I mean, you authentically become hooked to the dopamine buzz you get when people go, it's okay, you're right, and that person is terrible. You do. We get little microbursts from that. That is authentically an addiction. But being upset and taking every opportunity to let everybody know that that's wrong and I don't like it, that is inauthentic. Because humanity, we are far tougher than that. We are far more durable. And every emotion does not have to be publicly fucking endorsed and approved or coddled. I don't know. But again, I'm a Neanderthal. I come from the 80s and in the 90s and, buck up, toughen up, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Oh, they were mean to you? Really? Well, they're still your boss. And you've got a mortgage. Let's see here. Barney, I don't remember this. This is, the best thing about the old P&K show is that the listeners remember things. Barney says, you did that once on P&K. You had 2 gay listeners talk to them separately, and they sounded normal, then had them talk to each other, and they went into the gay. Probably. That sounds like something we would have done. It's a sincere question, and there's no judgment behind it. It's an observation. Am I the only one that they sound the same? Am I the only one who has noticed that this gay man over here on the East Coast who's never met this gay man over here in Portland, they both have the same lisp? Am I right or am I wrong? Is this a performative thing or is this, again, I don't know. And when I say, is this a performative thing, that is not to suggest it in any way, shape, or form that I think that being gay is a choice. I long cross that. Dudes who are authentically and legitimately gay are legitimately gay. And I know this because I couldn't be performatively gay. And I don't think that most heterosexual men could get an erection because I want people to think I'm gay. So I'm going to start having gay sex. I would never be able to perform. But being honest, I probably think I might have some problems performing with a woman at my advanced age. But see, that's why I think it's got to be something that's, something just different about who you are, whatever, different than what the statistical average is. I don't think you can fake it. I don't think you could force it. Maybe people can. I don't know. Can you forcibly make blood go to your penis? Can you just be like, all right, it's a hairy dude, but I'm gonna do it. I don't know how you fake that. I don't know how that's. I couldn't fake it. And if you believe you can fake it, then you must be someone who could, because I couldn't. As a strictly heterosexual man, I do not think that I could be performatively gay. I don't think the plumbing would work. But if you're telling me that you think it might for you, I've got follow-ups. For you. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Here's an upsetting story. Here's an upsetting story that we may have seen going around yesterday. USA Today was alerted to this by soldiers, military men that were on board one of our military ships that are over there. They started taking pictures of the food they're being fed. Of course, the horrendous rations that we feed our military men. I don't know if this is generally speaking, but certainly there are enough examples of what soldiers and sailors aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln are being fed because those pictures went viral. USA Today picked up on it and did a whole story about why are we feeding our soldiers like prisoners? Look at this. This is a close-up of the shit that we fed last night for dinner. People on board the USS Abraham Lincoln. In response to the USA Today story, they then started to post all kinds of pictures. But here it is. This is how we support our troops. This is, all the people who tell you, Pete Hegseth, this is dinner. Image of food being served to sailors on the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Tripoli, as published by USA Today. What the fuck is this? What is that? Is that a steak-um? Are we giving them a single steak-um some kind of weird round ground and then fucking carrots? Now, I have to be honest, I don't know. Is this selective? Like, is there supposed to be a nice little apple cobbler here? Maybe some cream corn, or I don't know. This is a shitty fucking dinner. This would be unacceptable for prisoners. And this is what, I mean, look, I don't want to get too upset because I know how much Pete Hegseth loves his Warriors. We know how much Trump and the VA, and it's still a fucking mess, but that's okay. We don't talk about the VA. It's still a fucking mess. What do you think? It's fixed? There you go. Look at that. That looks good too. That's another meal. That looks like some kind of flour tortilla. It's not even. There you go. So you know what? I say this all the time. Rob in the chat room, one of the Rob Witchkitty, the brilliant musical artist that Rob is. Rob is terrific. Rob is also one of this country's largest military charity advocate. He's been running this organization, Hire a Hero, for years and years and years. And you know what? Unfortunately, it's not as big as it once was because people don't give a fuck about veterans anymore. They figure that was all fixed. But when I was working for Rob and I was hanging out with veterans groups and all this kind of stuff, they never talked about this. They never talked about this kind of rationing, this kind of food. That's bullshit. And if you don't think, oh, Pugs, that's just the military. Well, USA Today was kind enough to show some meals provided from other militaries also in the region. For instance, would you be interested in seeing what the sailors aboard the French ship, the Charles de Gaulle, get to eat for dinner? We saw the steak-em and the weird mystery meat with the carrots that the Americans get. But how about this? Look at this. This is aboard the USS, or not USS, I'm sorry. It's the Charles de Gaulle. Meanwhile, aboard the French carrier Charles de Gaulle. Look at this. Here's the markings. That's their tray. Look at this. Baked potato. What are they getting? A glass of wine? So once again, there you go. As I learned without a doubt when I was working for veterans charities, nobody supports veterans. They all say they support veterans, and they'll do the absolute minimum, which is put a bumper sticker on their car that says, I support veterans. Except when you show up at their work and you say, look, we'd like to do some kind of program with you guys where maybe you hire some of these people, we'll send them your way. And if you can get, at least 50% of them, oh, we can't be doing that. We can't. We got a parking lot filled with cars with we support the troops bumpers, but we won't actually do any. That would cost us money. How much do you think this will cost us? So fuck you. Fuck you and your MAGA, we support the troops. Fuck you and your Republican conservative for years and years. The libtard Dems, not that they're any better. I don't know. I'd like to see what meals looked under Obama. I don't know. But that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable that is what we're feeding our military members that are out there in a combat zone waiting to be fed into a wood chipper, which apparently won't happen now. Or so they say, which is good. That's good, I guess. The shit we feed our troops. The shit we feed our troops. I got video of Pete. So, Pete Hegseth kind of got put in the wood chipper yesterday for a little bit because he made a speech the day before in front of all these military jackholes. They're a bunch of fucking Christian national MAGA military bullshit, whatever it is, whoever his crowd is. Actually, if I'm being honest, I think this was at the Pentagon. So I think this was more of an official crowd, but still you get the idea. So Pete Hegseth went up there and he did a prayer. God, Jesus. He got up there and he did a prayer. He's like, everybody pray with me. Come on, fucking motherfuckers. Let's go. Let's pray because Jesus. Right? And he gets up and he does a prayer. And he got thrown in the wood chipper because it was the prayer from Pulp Fiction. It was the one that Samuel L. Jackson recites before he murders a man in cold blood, right? That's what Pete Hegseth took the prayer part and just eliminated everything else. What about the act after the prayer? What about after he says, and I will rain vengeance? What about the act of murdering somebody, Pete? I think you took the wrong message from that scene. Anyway, Pete Hegseth got up in front of all these people. He said, I want to say a prayer. And then he recited word for word Samuel L. Jackson's line from that movie. Now he got put in the wood chipper because, well, that's pretty funny without full context, right? The way that is, that's pretty funny. Oh my God, he's such a bad Christian that he doesn't even know that Jules' speech in Pulp Fiction wasn't an actual Bible verse. It was actually made up and written by Quentin Tarantino. He's so dumb and a bad Christian, he doesn't know that. And that's the video that went around. And the video went around, oh, let's all make fun of Pete Hegseth. Far be it from me to ever defend or be an apologist for Pete Hegseth, but that's not at all the situation that happened there. As a matter of fact, conveniently not edited this way because this wouldn't have made it go viral. But the line before he goes into the prayer, he says that I know this isn't a real prayer. That this is something that CSOC, which is some military division, adopted as their personal prayer from the movie Pulp Fiction, but none of that was included. It was just put out there by the Brian Krasensteins and all of the fucking lecherous left pieces of shit who are no better than the guys on the right who have muddied this whole fucking country. They're all monsters. And so these left guys, they're putting it out duplicitously without full context, leading everybody, their millions of followers, leading everyone to believe that Pete Hegseth thinks that that's an actual Bible quote. When again, far be it for me to defend him, but he doesn't, because I saw the whole clip, because I saw where they started the clip and how they didn't include the sentence before where they started, because that would have made everything else they were trying to do bullshit. Well, it was bullshit. Here's the clip. I'll show you the clip. We actually have the clip. Here it is. Again, I hate to be the one to defend him, but man, we got to call balls and strikes, right? We got to be honest about this shit. Pete Hegseth absolutely knew and framed it as this is a 1995, I believe he said. 1995 is when this was first adopted by this particular military group. And I would like to recite it for you. It comes from Pulp Fiction. The verse goes, and they pick it up from the verse goes. They didn't include any of that other shit. Because, you know, it's not about truth. It's about scoring points. It's about, it's about petty nonsense. And that's what social media has done to us. And that's why we're so broken and so partisan. All right, here it is.
So the prayer is CSAR 2517, and it reads and pray.
Prayer is CSAR 2517. Okay, it's not a real prayer. Now, there are elements of this prayer that are taken from Ezekiel, which is and you will know me by my name, or whatever the last line is. That is an actual line from Ezekiel. But when he just says here, this is CSOC 17, that CSOC is like whatever the military or whatever it is. But in 1995, they started using this fake verse from Pulp Fiction. They knew it was fake. They pulled it out of the movie, but they started to use it for their own motivation and all that. And that's what he did. And here it is. So that's your context.
So the prayer is CSAR 2517, and it reads, and pray with me, please. The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
All right, so there you have it. There you have it. And you just heard him say in the prayer, he was changing, the words were changed. The call signs, did they mention military call signs in the Bible? No, of course they didn't. Pete Hegseth knew the whole time this wasn't a Bible verse, but that didn't stop the endless fucking bullshit. Whatever. Man, there is so much other shit you can get him on. And then this, nitpicky bullshit. I just can't stand it. All right, what else do we have here? We did the shit we feed our troops. Oh, we were going to talk about this a little bit. This was another one of the things that we were going to get into with Maddie because I think she introduced it a couple of days before. But here, this is the last thing we'll do. This is another example. We all know, it's been endless the last couple of months. The former, MAGA podcast digital world, they're all, if they're not turning on each other, they have certainly and decidedly turned on Trump. Whether we're talking about, the Tim Dillons or the Joe Rogan, whoever it is, even the Tim Pools for crying out loud. But this is Schultz. What's his name? Is it Dave Schultz? No, Dave Schultz. Whatever this guy's name is, I don't know. But he's opining on the stunt from a couple of days ago, the Doordash grandma, who Trump even yesterday said that was tacky, which is weird because it's like, are you calling her tacky? Are you saying that having to, interact with some grandma with tattoos who's a DoorDash person because she can't afford to take care of her husband? Are you calling her tacky? Anyway, it was weird that he said it, but we won't dwell on that. All right, here we go. I wanted to play this for you. More cracks. More cracks in the magosphere. Let's listen to this. This is a little quick commentary on formerly pro-MAGA voices talking about just the endless bullshit in the DoorDash grandma.
Why would you bring a grandma that needs to work DoorDash?
Because they're talking about taxation on tips.
Yeah, but pause it for a second. Isn't
people?
Don't we want to live in a country where grandmas don't have to work DoorDash?
Thank
where
you.
Grandmas get to be retired.
Yeah,
and
regardless
there's a
of the
retirement
tax
fund that takes. What?
That's the thing that was missed by the elite wealthy class. Trump lives in a world where it's perfectly acceptable for the poor peasants to have to do side hustle work just to make sure that their husband doesn't die of cancer. That's the world we've created, right? That's acceptable. All right. So I'm looking for a little bit of credit here. We're not going to tax their tips. How's that? Oh, no, we're not going to do anything to change the fact that grandma's got to work DoorDash. We're not going to change that. No, please, what are you, stupid? Well, what we can do is no tax on tips. Are we great? Are we great or what? And that's what he's saying here. He's saying, wait a second. I go, this is no kind of, he shouldn't be shining a spotlight on the fact that he's presiding over a country where a retired grandma has got to get a side gig delivering food because we can't cover her husband's cancer costs. That is what you should be, not fucking tax on, well, she's gonna need tips because we sure as fuck ain't providing new jobs. So we may as well take away the tax on tips. And that's what he's pointing out. And that's something that nobody has pointed out. That is very important.
Don't we want to live in a country where grandmas don't have to work DoorDash? Where grandmas get to be retired, and there's a retirement fund that takes what kind of delusional reality are we living in where he's parading around the grandma that's working DoorDash so she can afford to pay her husband's cancer bills, and he's like, see, we're not doing tips. There's a whole other issue at hand here that we need to be focused on.
Yeah. All right, there you go. They're just comfortable. The formerly pro, where everything was, the other side, the left, are starting to realize that maybe it's worse on the right. Or not the right. I shouldn't say that because that's the demonization of entire political, worldviews. That's not. We can have multiple worldviews. It's the demonization of MAGA in what is obviously a grift. That's what's happened. It's the realization by people who should have fucking realized a long time before that this is all a grift, but they didn't. And why would they, man? People like Theo Von and this guy Schultz, what's his name? Dave Schultz, Mark Schultz, whatever, Rick Schultz, whatever. A lot of these guys, they were all middling, unimportant career comedians who would come through town. They spent the entire year on the road. This weekend they're in Phoenix. Next weekend they're in Dallas. Next weekend they're in Austin. Next weekend they're in Houston. Next weekend they're in New Orleans. Next weekend. That's their life. They don't have the TV show. They don't have the sitcom. They didn't have that yet. But man, they were right in that touring sort of zone right when podcasts and all that became a thing. And every single weekend, they had a new audience in a new city where they could say, check out my podcast. And they grew and they started to realize that content in that format that was gaining traction was shit that they weren't really allowed to do on stage anymore because club owners were like, well, we don't want to offend these people or those people. And they became massive stars. Tim Dillon is not a massively successful stand-up comedian. Tim Dillon is a very successful podcaster who also happens to have formerly been a comedian who still does comedy stuff, but let's not kid ourselves. The vast majority of his income comes from the fucking podcasts. Same with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan can still call himself a comedian, but no, Joe's not a Joe probably makes $200 million a year, and I would venture to guess that 198 million of that might come from the podcast. So all of these guys who leaned into things that over the period of the last 10 years maybe would have aligned with the stuff that Trump was saying, those people exploited it for their own personal well-being, and now they're all rich. Now they all have money, and they're coming back to normal going, wow, those people were kind of assholes. But I'll tell you, man, I was selling out casinos in Alabama for 10 straight years. Tim Dillon, he ain't playing the fucking local yuckle hut now outside of Boise. No, he's playing the giant Indian casino, and he's packing it with people with red hats who are like, he's one of the funny guys who likes Trump. They exploited that. And now they're all rich and they got successful, and they're looking around and they're going, wait a second. We're kind of stained. We're kind of wearing scarlet letters now. And so they have all in unison now been trying to come back to normal. And then we've seen it with Tim Dillon and Theo Von and Joe Rogan and, now this guy. Anyway, that's what's happening for them. We all have to decide whether or not we let them back in, because I'll tell you, there was a period of time, especially during the ramp up to the election, that all of these guys were all in. All in. Theo Von sitting at the fucking inauguration. Theo Von don't know anything about politics. He was just there because, you know what? It's kind of cool. This is a life experience. Yeah, I went to a presidential inauguration once. I sat like 2 rows behind the president. Really, Grandpa Theo? Tell us about it. I mean, I can understand why these people did it, why they had an association, why they would go to the White House, why they would go to the Oval. I get all of that. What I don't get is why on a Wednesday during a 2-hour rant, they would start carrying water for someone who's obviously an asshole. That's the part that I got a problem with. I don't have a problem that Bill Maher went to the White House and had dinner with Trump. He's the president of the United States. Doesn't give a shit if you like him or not. It's president of the United States. You go to dinner with that guy and you sit and you talk to him. I don't know. But all of these guys, their access seemed a bit inauthentic because none of them had ever been political before. But once it started to become economically advantageous for them to take political positions, especially in that area, that era, the more extreme the position they can take online, the more traction they would get. They leaned into it. I don't know if they were ever authentically that way. Joe Rogan's a fucking liberal. Joe Rogan is a very progressive-minded dude. Joe Rogan isn't Mr. Christian nationalist. He never has been. Joe Rogan has gay friends. He's got gay comedians that he's friends with. He's not one of these fucking weirdos, but he started to gain real traction. And look, Spotify gave him, $100 million a year? You lean into it. You're like, it's a career, all right. But Joe Rogan, if you were sitting around having beers with him, he is not in step with your uncle who's MAGA. Okay? He's not. Never has been. But there are a lot of people who went around. There were a lot of people in Germany who went along with what the Nazis were doing. And I don't like to make that equation because it's not the same equation. MAGA is nothing like Nazis, but it's about being permissive. Seeing things that are going on that maybe you don't agree with are good, but you go with it because in the moment, it's personally beneficial. It's a lack of principle. It's a lack of morals. It's why I don't do AM talk radio, and it's why I'm here talking to you at 3:49 on a Friday. All right, that's going to be it. Yeah, Maddie's back. I figured it out. We figured that we had to reboot and everything, and it came back on, and I needed to make sure that the sound was working, and then by that point, we were in a conversation. But we're done now. We're done now. All right. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. I don't know where you are, but we're in for some shit here. Let me see what it is currently. Currently here on the south side of Chicago. Let's see. It is currently 82 degrees. 82 degrees here on the south side of Chicago. There is a small craft advisory. That's one of the when you live by water, you get these things. We got a small craft advisory happening there in the lake until 10 p.m. So even though it's 82 degrees, might be one of the nice days to get your boat out. Get out there and enjoy the Great Lakes. Just so you know, if you got a little boat, there's an advisory. What are we're supposed to get like crazy, wicked, insane storms. Yeah, it looks like it starts here about 9 o'clock. Extreme winds, thunderstorm warning, blah, 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 blah. All right, that's what we got. That's what I'm looking forward to. Let's move to Dallas. Let's see what you guys down there got. Holy shit, it is warmer on the south side of Chicago right now than it is in Dallas, Texas. It is currently 82 degrees on the south side of Chicago, and it is 80 degrees in Highland Park, Texas, Dallas. It's 80 degrees in Texas. When we're getting these crazy rainstorms, you're just going to have, you're going to get rainstorms too. You're going to get rainstorms overnight. Going to be a wet morning for you. What are we doing? I'm fucking doing weather now? What am I doing? What the hell is this? Just reading some of the things that we have here on the chat room. All right, I'm done. You guys are the best. We'll see you back here on Monday, okay? Appreciate you. Be cool with everybody. Have a good weekend, and don't die. There you go. Best advice I can give you. Don't die. See you Monday.